Hungary. Yes, I get visions of gigantic Vikings with axes and swords going to pillage and plunder and slay dragons and shit. Yes, Hungary, my brothers. They lead us, they show us the way. Okay, first and foremost, I know, I get it. That is a very American vision of what Hungary is. Hungary, they more than likely, they didn't have Vikings and the like. It's just the word, the name in and of itself. And, I'm an idiot. I really am. Okay. But seriously, though, this is coming to us from PJ Media. Hungary takes on the feminist Goliath and wins. Oh, really? This is written by David Solway. And because this is about Hungary, do not expect me to get these names right, guys. I'm going to completely chop them up. Feminism is a social and political movement. It is not an academic discipline on par with, say, mathematics, economics, business, administration, engineering, or physics. Gender studies, feminism's academic wing, does not constitute an appropriate subject for an academic degree, particularly those cushioned by state funding, right? At best, it is a subset of a complex set of ideas, issues, and events properly canvassed by the history department, along with a myriad of other themes and developments in the study of Western civilization. So, boom, off top, it's no different than religion, right? Like, schools to become ministers and preachers aren't funded, they're funded by the church. They're not funded by the state, because that's an ideology, and the state has no place pushing an ideology. But yet here we are, right? Moreover, such programs have no business infesting legitimate areas of study to the extent that an astronomer must sign an affidavit attesting to his involvement in social justice projects, or an engineer proclaim his fealty to the Feminist Manifesto if he is to be considered for promotion. Jesus Christ, they're really making people do that. Yeah, I remember the James Damore thing. The same proviso applies to any applicant for a university position. It should be obvious that gender programs and initiatives have nothing to do with mapping the universe, finding a cure for cancer, investigating quantum entanglement, or scholastic electrodynamics, studying the economic effects of the Protestant Reformation, assessing the impact of political theories from Plato and Aristotle to the present, resolving truce and anchorage problems in suspension bridge engineering, tracing the history of epic poetry from Homer to Michael Lind's The Alamo, or any canonical field of authentic endeavor. The fact that that a bogus discipline which has no reason for existing sui generis can spread outward to influence and dilute genuine subjects is beyond comprehension. That is my favorite paragraph in life. That is my favorite paragraph, because, guys, that's the point. All right, it's not moving us forward. It's actually holding us back when you sit here and do that. Here in the Western society, once again, the opportunity is there, ladies. And I think it really is a generational thing, without question. Because recently I had a conversation with my boss, and somehow a woman that wrote a ton of Star Trek came up, and she was like, oh, well, she was a woman, and this is all great, and everything else like that. But that's the thing. My boss is older than me. I was born in 81. As far as I'm concerned, no shit. Yeah, women can do this shit. Of course a woman could do it. So why the big deal? And I really feel like that's one of the main, sticking points. People who were born before a certain time can't fully appreciate how far things have truly come. And it's coming, and it's really not helpful. Enter Hungary! In an effort to restore curricular and administrative sanity to university education, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban and his Fidesz party has passed legislation to abolish gender studies as an area of official study. Now, I'm sorry I said that like the guy around the campfire in 300, but damn it, they're right, okay? Dead. You know what you could dead? You could dead all the identity. Because gender was that African American Studies, like all of these different courses. If you ever watched the movie Ghostbusters, right? They were sitting there like, oh well, we could just go through the colleges and the schools and not really have to produce anything, and we'll have cushy jobs and a lot of money, and that's where all of these identity politic theories and thoughts, that's where they come from. They're trying to justify their own damn existence, and it's not helping anyone anywhere. Okay, let me get back to where I was. Similarly, no. Hungary's Prime Minister Zoltz, wow, that looks a lot like semen. Simon has stated that such programs have no business in universities as they represent an ideology, not a science, with a market profile close to zero. By market profile means like you can't make money off this shit. Why are we doing like the money you'll make is close to zero, basically nothing. Similarly, Orban's chief of staff, Gergely Gulyas. Okay. The Hungarian government is of the clear view that people are born either men or women. They lead their lives the way they think best, and the Hungarian state does not wish to spend public funds on education in this area. Go get them. Go get them, Gargly. Sorry. According to reports, Fide's spokesman, Istvan Holik, echoing Simon, because I really can't help but feel like that J is silent, brought in the economic argument, pointing to the obvious fact that you don't have to be an expert to see there's not much demand in the labor market for gender studies. But the core of the issue goes deeper. And you do not have to be an expert. I am not an expert. I have been screaming this shit from the top of my lungs. But the core of the issue goes deeper. It is also no secret that our goal is to make Hungary a truly Christian democratic country, which defends its normality and life and values. And now there is this situation with gender studies, which is not a science but an ideology, and one which is closely linked to liberal ideology. And I don't think it fits in here. Go, shit. That is one of the nicest way a man can grab his sack. Of course, such efforts to abolish clearly non-academic programs from the university will be considered an authoritarian and anti-democratic pushed by such bastions of liberal left propaganda as the Harvard Journal of Law and Gender. The policy is naturally opposed by the Hungary-based Soros-funded CEU, which sees the move as an attempt at censoring academic curricula. The university, after all, is sacred ground. By these lights, the German universities of the 1930s were well within their mandate to espouse and promote the doctrines of Nazi ideology, adopted in the name of progress, justice, and freedom from oppression. Son of a bitch! Like, yo! You guys get why I focused in on this one, why I'm making a video around this one. They're hitting all the points. Like, and I mean, it's also goes into the whole Bernie thing. Like, yikes, this is funny. Orban's surgical strike against the CEU is better understood as a reasonable effort to limit Soros' totalitarian meddling in the education and conduct of an independent democratic nation. Orban realizes that what he calls the Soros plan entails transforming Europe and moving it towards a post-Christian, post-national era, postmodernism. The CEU is now relocated its Budapest campus to Vienna, where it can persist unmolested in its aim to undermine Western civilization. Criticism continues to pour in from all the predictable quarters. Every undemocratic government wants to control the knowledge production and sexuality, which explains why gender studies become the target in the first place, said Andrea Peto, a professor of gender studies at Central European University. But Peto's critique is clearly applicable to liberal democratic governments across the West, which allow for no counter-proposals and are busy suppressing legitimate resistance or debate. Damn it, go get them. Like, guys, like the fact that my channel is where it is should be more than enough knowledge that because there's a level of that's why I say it at the end of every video. Like, they don't want to hear what I have to say because I definitely want to push back against it. But what they happily do is just suppress it. But me, I don't care. Like, you're here, you're listening. Thank you so much. I appreciate the hell out of you, and that's why, shit, we gotta there, and some people actually do go all the way through my videos. So thank you for putting me on to that, guys. But Perro's critique is clearly an okay. Kind of lost my space. There we go. Some democracy with exclamation mark, as, yeah, I'm not trying this name, points out in his brilliant The Demon in Democracy, Totalitarian Temptations, and Free Societies. There is some interplay between liberal democracy and communism, a stifling atmosphere typical of a political monopoly, imposing uniformly of views, behavior, and language. His lengthy exegesis of our current liberal democratic system as distinguished from traditional liberal democracy seems irrefutable. Writing in the Progressive Journal Inside Higher Ed, Premilia Nadison, a history professor at Barnard College, sees the attack on women and gender studies scholars as part of a right-wing push to return to a heteronormative patriarchal society. When they start using those words, you know what you're getting, okay? All right, when they say, I use the words ironically, all right, because I know these are the words that they use. Normal people, like you hear this and they're just like, wait, what, bruh? What are you talking about? Like, yeah, I got a dick. It's good. Like, it is what it is. But no. Not with people who have been indoctrinated into this ideology and this way of thinking. More of the usual gibberish beloved by gender academics. In the same venue, Middlebury College professor Kevin Moss notes, with the vacuity of the pedestrian mind, gender studies and the gender equality and equality for LGBT people are threatening for authoritarian regimes because authoritarian regimes require for somebody to have more power than somebody else. And the inimitable expression of Homer Simpson, duh. Oh, duh! It's dope. I'm sorry. I did that wasn't Homer initially. A reading of the Norwegian feminist journal Kiddelen tells us we all need to know. Or I think there should be a what we all need to know. Filled with the pietistic conviction that they are cutting-edge scholars and researchers, as they like to call themselves. These self-proclaimed experts in the field of gender studies rely on flawed surveys and pseudo-statistical studies masking as a science in order to bolster what is nothing less than ideological ravings. Such disciplinary malfeasance has been abundantly demonstrated in many different places. For example, Christina Hoff Sommers, Who Stole Feminism? A House Built of Sand, edited by Neretta Cortege and Janice Flamingo's ongoing video series, The Flamingo File. Feminist ideologues protest that they are the target of unfounded criticism while apprehensive about their career prospects, a primary concern, obviously, for those who may inwardly suspect they are entirely dispensable. Thus, the clamor of remonstrations, the ladies doth protesteth too much, methinks. Their critics are routinely dismissed as belonging to the extreme right wing. Yeah, and that's definitely how, like, a lot of people see me. Like, when I was on that side, I had friends on that side, and they're all like, oh, I changed. Did I change, or did I just take a second and actually look at things? And I can have a reasonable conversation with people, but while they're under that mind control, while they're under the TDS and everything else like that, they're damn near impossible. I mean, and honestly, there's people like I'm working on right now. Like, some are easier than others, man. Some are easier than others. Their critics are routinely, okay, and as using something called right-wing logic, a most convenient calumny that also makes no sense. Patriarchal knowledge is at fault, claims Polish feminist Miss Graff, where men know everything and women aren't allowed to get a word in. Seriously, any unbiased examination of YouTube and university panel discussions on the subject will give the lie to her disposition. Men are generally silent, rendering apologetic or cowed to submission, unless you're Jordan Peterson. Kilden director Linda Marie Rustad is correct in acknowledging that the attacks on gender are part of a bigger picture, namely the upsurge of right-wing populism. But what she does not and cannot recognize is that the real problem is not right-wing populism, but left-wing progressivism. Two things should be briefly mentioned here. National populism is the result of the reaction to homogenic progressivism, and such as a necessary corrective to a political culture gone awry. And what is diversively called derisively called populism or right wing, designates a movement that seeks to restore the traditional values of the West: individual autonomy, property rights, equality before the law, the integrity of the nation, the sanctity of the institution of marriage, and in many nations, the Christian communion. The term right wing is actually an honorific. Left wing, or liberal progressivism, strives instead to dismantle the nation state, to denounce the history of the West as a colonial monstrosity, to accumulate debt in order to finance various ideological projects de jure, to dumb down education, to emasculate individual initiative, and regulate entrepreneurship to death. Which they have done. Oh my God, they have done that very, very, very well. And to redefine marriage as a fluid constitution and thusly destabilize the family, the nuclear family. I actually saw when I was in the conversation with Tommy Sotomayor that I said nuclear family, and people were like, he said nuclear. What the fuck is this shit? Golly, we did not educate our youth. It is sad to note that liberalism is now synonymous with social orthodoxy, that is, state control, censorship, political correctness, disruptive economics, funded abortion, and non-binary gender relations. In Orban's words, the situation in the West is that there is liberalism, but there is no democracy. Orban has understood the nature of the threat and has taken a strong stand against the debilitating sickness represented by the left. In a July 29, 2018 major address delivered at an open university summer camp, he said, "An era is a special and characteristic cultural reality, a spiritual order, a kind of prevailing mood, perhaps even taste, a form of attitude determined by cultural trends, collective beliefs, and social customs. This is now the task we are faced with, to embed a political system in a cultural era, that is, an evolving cultural era. The task is to defend Christian culture, to reject multiculturalism, and monitor immigration to protect the nation's economy and garrison its borders, and to preserve the traditional gender and family model, which is the, hey, we get together, we make a person, we want to make sure that person grows up to be a pretty decent person, so we do this together, we do this as a team, we do this in a collaborative effort." Unfortunately, that's not what we've been promoting here in the West for the longest time here, and particularly via the media. It's like, all families are equal. Oh yeah, adopt somebody else's random kid that they didn't fucking decide they want to take care of, then expect that person to be a decent human. No, get the fuck out of here. Like, no. You should want one of your own. You should want to be able to have, you should want the freedom to, be able to do as you want with as little government interference as possible. But unfortunately, we are so conditioned here. It is terrible. Orban has a welcome ally in Brazil's President Jair Bolsonaro, who has introduced a bill aiming at the principle of integral protection of children to prohibit the inclusion of gender issues in elementary schools. The bill is intended to respect the beliefs of parents and students, privileging families in their school education related to moral, sexual, and religious education. The Brazilian Studies Association is up in arms, duly evoking a terror scenario in which educators will be dismissed and bullied as a form of persecution, and marginalized communities will suffer something like epistemic oppression. Professor Marlene de Faville of the State University of Santa Clarita claims that the introduction of such a concept is meant to propagate hatred towards feminists and to, of course it is, minimize the scientific character of gender studies. This is typical feminist nonsense. The bill is intended to reduce the malign influence of hardcore feminists, instilling hatred and false knowledge in their charges, and to expose the blatantly non-scientific character of gender studies. Orban even has a more powerful ally in Donald Trump, are you sure? Who is drafting legislation that defines sex as a person's status as male or female based on immutable biological traits undefinable by or before birth. But it remains for the Justice Department to decide on legality of the new legislation, which would seriously modify the Title IX statute and reverse the gender loosening rules of the previous administration. While events hang fire, little Hungary is leading the charge, and that's why, props to him. How much longer do I have in this video? That's not too long. We can finish this out, because I know this is run a little bit long, but I did want to talk about the entire thing and really put my 2 cents in as well. So, thanks for hanging in. If you've been with me this entire time, we got a little bit more to go, but thank you so much for hanging in here with me. Liberal despots pickled in the prime of their progressivist ideology, feminist academics ranking in lavish salaries for steeping their students in the euphoria of manufactured fury and lying about professional underrepresentation, and revolutionary zealots sheltering behind the walls of non-productive quasi-professions cannot tolerate conservative proponents of moral decency, civil order, common sense, and historical truth. It's chaos versus order, and I think that can switch on its head rather quickly and rather easily depending on which way the establishment needs it to go. So yeah, we're looking at it right now as blue side, liberal side, progressivism side, all over there. They're insane, they're nuts. But the thing is, when it comes to agendas, it's like water, like Bruce Lee said, you gotta fight like water. You gotta be very flexible. You got if because water goes into the cup, it takes the form of the cup. Water goes into a bowl, it takes the form of the bowl. Water, you gotta be fluid and shit. Feminists and gender mavens believe that feminist politics and its academic vanguard of gender studies form the linchpin that holds the internal campaign against Western culture together. If it is weakened or expunged, the entire structure will begin to totter, and the hated patriarchal forces they oppose will reassert themselves. Hence, the self-righteous indignation of the gender fanatics cloaking themselves in the rhetoric of academic freedom, scientific cogency, moral innocence, welfare economics, identity politics, and gender fluidity. And hence, the fear and loathing of sensible and courageous leaders like Viktor Orban, who insists there is a life beyond globalism, and that a constitutional order is essential to the survival and prosperity of the nation. True enough, that there are two sexes, not 73 and counting, that marriage is a covenant between a man and a woman, and that every child has a right to a mother and a father. You know what? I say what we do is we just kind of like rebrand marriage. Then let's stop calling that marriage, right? Like, fuck it. Okay, yeah, everybody can get married. Sweet. Call it God's eye or something like but the Lord, your deity, because it may not be the Lord, it may not be, God, you may not call him God, so your deity of choice looks down upon your union and blesses it, like that, like, because it ultimately had nothing to do with the state. It really shouldn't have had anything to do with the state. It should be about, two people going before their deity and saying, yeah, I take the man provide and protect, take responsibility for the woman and in front of her family and everybody else like that, because we should be belonging to each other, right? Like it's not. I know that might sound a little jacked up to like a feminist ears, but like as a society, as a community, as families, we should be belonging to each other. So yeah, that father is the man in his daughter's life until like he or she somebody finds her a pretty decent guy too that the father approves of, to be like, all right, bet. I mean, we used to have dowries. I mean, shoot, people actually used to be like, I mean, we sit here and talk about prices and what and oh my goodness, being objectified when people were literally sold for goats and shit. Come on, man, take it easy. A caveat should be introduced here. Abolishing gender studies as an academic discipline will not by itself repair the damage inflicted by feminism on what John Milton memorably called beholding the bright constants of truth in the quiet and still air of delightful studies. This is only a first step towards restoring integrity to the university, for, as noted, the feminist bacillus has now permeated almost every office and facility in the modern university and in the modern working world right now, in modern culture, from hiring protocols to admissions policy to patorial oversight of sexual conduct to student organizations to practically and all licit departments and curricula. How to go about fumigating a perennial environment is a highly problematic enterprise, but the issue needs to be addressed. Meanwhile, feminists may be livid and progressivists may virulently denounce populist figures like Orban and his allies, Bolsonaro and Trump, as political tyrants and cultural troglodytes. In the words of John Dale Dunn, this is what we can expect. The current environment of academic and media shows for the left, who specialize in vilification and character assassination of anyone who proposes a conservative answer for a serious political question. Orban's conservative answer is simple and honest. Our duty, he concludes, is to defend human dignity, the family, and the nation. It makes sense to me. It makes a shitload of sense to me too, which is why Hungary, go get them. My God, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for putting up with me. Thank you so much for getting through this whole article with me. I appreciate you because I did like a 20-minute video the other day where I was just like, yeah, no one's listening, and then one of you guys were like, I'm still listening. I was like, oh, okay, bet. So, thusly, yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this one. And I think this is really fantastic news, not just for Hungary, but the world. Shout out to President Trump for him trying to solidify in our laws exactly what, but they're right. But they're right. Like exactly what constitutes a man and a woman in that, yes, it's from birth. Of course, it's God's call, man. Why are you sitting here like, I don't like those people that just like, oh yeah, God's wrong. So anyway, all the internet stuff. If you like it, toss it a like, dislike, go ahead, do that too. Nobody's scared of you. Sub if you enjoy my fantastic voice and you want to get videos like this every single day. Share, because sharing is caring, and YouTube and BitChute and aren't the biggest fans of your boy over here for obvious, come on, seriously. They all think that they're all just brainwashed into this ideology. So many people don't even know what they're brainwashed into because it's just been a part of their life, their entire life. So, God bless them. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right. Bang the bell for notifications, and we're done here. We're done here. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you for sticking this one out with me because this was a bit of a long read, but I think it was worth every single word. And if you agree, that's what I have a comment section for. Till the next one.